Hi, it's Cara, and today I'm going to be doing a combined review, cause reviews. So recently I joined NetGalley. I did some bad things in requesting way too many books, way more than I could possibly really read before due dates. But I've managed to fit in so far everything. I've read them either on or before their due dates. So I'm going good. But yeah, I got really excited and I assumed I wouldn't get approved for much. So I just started requesting titles and requesting anything that caught my fancy, and yeah, that was a bad decision. But since over the 2 weeks that I was doing study and then exams, I've read 4 books from NetGalley, 4 arcs that have been released over the course of the month. I think one's still to be released, but the other 3 have since been released, or at least in the States, because I don't really know release dates here in Australia. But essentially, I read these 4 books, and today I'm going to talk to you about them, because books, yay! So first off this month, I read Take Back the Skies by Lucy Saxon. This book is a young adult steampunk dystopian. It's really hard to describe, but essentially there's steampunk elements, dystopian elements. About a wealthy girl who's the daughter of a politician in their society who decides she's sick of the constraints of the elite and is going to escape on a skyship. And she finds out that the society that she thought she lived in was not what she thought. And essentially the book follows her and the people she meets trying to bring down this poisonous society that her father is a high up person in. And I enjoyed this book, but I think I gave it 3.5 stars, because my main problem with it was that the author was so young when writing it. I think she was about 16, that you can really feel that her writing style hasn't properly developed, and the writing's a little bit choppy and stilted, especially in the dialogue and language. Like, I found the dialogue was a mix between slang and really formal language in a way that didn't quite work. And essentially it was just really choppy, and I didn't really like that. But the plot was really, really interesting and kept me going right to the end. My only other fault was that the ending was weird. Weird in that I was like, what? But yeah, so I liked it, poorly executed. That was my main problem with that one. But if you think you'd like steampunk dystopians, I'd check it out. It's definitely readable. I did finish it quite quickly. I enjoyed it. I just didn't think it was outstanding. I'm excited to see what the author comes out with in the future now that she's got a few years on her, because the plot was so good. Just execution needs to step it up a notch. So that's where I'm sitting with Take Back the Skies by Lucy Saxon. It was good, but it wasn't great. Yeah. So next I read Paradigm by Ceri A Lowe, and 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't heard anyone talking about this book, and I don't know why, because this book was amazing. This book is a dystopian apocalyptic. This seems to be a theme, but it's really only the 2 books. It's a dystopian / apocalyptic novel that follows 2 perspectives and 2 narratives. One is this girl called Alice, who I think is 14 at the start of the novel, and she is living through the apocalypse as the whole world is collapsing, and she is trying to rebuild a new society. And then you follow Connor, who is also around the same age, and he's living 80 years into the future, where this new society has kind of gone wrong, and the values that Alice's time was trying to put into place have been warped and twisted into a dystopian society. And so you follow these 2 perspectives right the way through the novel, and And both of them were engaging, great plot lines, and the way they interacted was amazing. I felt like you really got to understand how the dystopian world could come about, which I feel is something that's often lacking in dystopian novels. You're like, oh, hey, we're in a shitty world with shitty shit going down, but how did we get here? How did anyone allow this to happen? Like, how is this a thing we got to? And this novel really showed that, how people with good intentions could create something horrible. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. All that, yeah. So I adored this. I'm so excited to read the sequel, find out what's going on, because we were left with some mysteries and some questions, and I'm excited to hear more about Alice and more about Connor and figure out how this world is working, because it's blowing my mind, Read it. That's all I have to say. Go out, buy Paradigm, read it. It is so, so good. Probably best dystopian I've ever read, I think. It's practically there. So the next thing I read this month was The Merciless by Danielle Vega. Everyone's been talking about this book. I feel like everyone got physical copies if you're a reviewer. I saw them a lot. Everyone was hauling them. And so I requested it because, you know, I hear people talking. I want to read, but I don't normally read horror. I don't watch horror. I'm not normally into that kind of thing, but this novel is a horror novel. And I really enjoyed it. Surprising myself, I really enjoyed it. It's about a girl who moves to a new town, gets in with a group of girls, and exorcism goes down and shit. Things go wrong, but oh man, oh, so good. I had an exam the day after. I started this at night or afternoon. I had an exam the next afternoon. I read it not really all night because I did go to bed at a reasonable time. And the next morning, and when I should have been studying, kind of, but I did study that day, that's okay. I did study, I just finished it really quickly in the morning. And, if I hadn't have had exams, I would have finished it that night at 1 a.m. But, you know, I had an exam the next day, so I went to bed at 10 like a good little girl. But so good. I had problems with, at times, I was like, this is lame, because the way I make myself less panicked is by laughing about horror novels. But really, this was kind of amazing. If I was a connoisseur of horror, I don't think I would enjoy it as much, but as my first horror novel, it was so good. Oh, so good. So good. I kind of want a physical copy, but I don't think I would reread, so it's not really worth it for me, but so good. I'm going to be recommending this to anyone that likes horror, and it's going to be exciting. And the final book I read in the last 2 weeks was I, Morgana by Felicity Pulman. This is a historical fantasy novel centered around Morgana, the half-sister of King Arthur, and how her evil acts could be portrayed as just misunderstanding and behind the scenes, essentially, of Morgana's life, and why she would have done these things. I think I gave this 3 stars, 3.5 stars. My main problem with this was that it was so difficult to read. The writing style for me was very flat. I didn't really get any emotion from any point, and it just felt really dull and lifeless. I had to push myself all the time to keep reading. But when I finally finished it, I did feel like the plot was good. It had an interesting premise. The plot was interesting, just lifeless. Just the writing was lifeless, and it was all about the writing style. That was my only problem. But if I hadn't have been reading this to review, I don't think I could have finished it. So that's about where I'm sitting with this. 3.5 stars. If you like historical fantasy and are okay with slightly boring writing style. I have a high standard when it comes to writing style. You gotta be good to impress me, and it didn't impress me, essentially. But if you can deal with a kind of lackluster writing style and you enjoy historical fantasy, this would probably be good for you. I didn't hate it, I just didn't really enjoy it. If you've read any of these books, let me know below, or if you plan on reading any of these books, if you've picked any of them up and are excited, because especially Paradigm or The Merciless, because I'm a fangirl with you, tell me down below, because they were so good. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back in the next couple of days with a top 10 books I've loved before book 2 video, because I'm here with all my books I've read, and I've realised there is a lot I would never have the opportunity to talk to you about, so I'm making that video in a couple of days. It's on. Yeah. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye!